Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have a super special guest joining us from sunny, beautiful Boston, outside of Boston. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Let me bring Julia Becker Collins on. Julia, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
And I started the relationship off with a lie. It's not beautiful and sunny in Boston right now.
No, it's not. It's gross.
It's gross. Kind of like Ohio is right now.
Yeah, it's raining and cold, and I think the end of the gorgeous New England weather. It's not fun right now.
No. Well, Julia, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me today to tell your story. I started this a couple of years ago or so to help people have a breakthrough in life, to get unstuck. And I think, we've all been there. We've all gotten stuck and not known how to get through it. So, and I have a feeling with that beautiful red hair, we're going to set the world on fire today.
I feel like my hair is it's like a beacon. Everybody can see me. They recognize me. It's a staple. It's part of my brand.
That's awesome.
And it also just puts a smile on people's faces. So that's always good.
Yeah. So I love it. I think it's beautiful. So
thank you.
So Julia, let's start with where you were born and raised. It doesn't sound like you were born in Boston.
Boston.
I can't even say it.
Boston.
Boston.
I think Boston. Yeah, no, I'm not from here.
No,
but if you talk
okay.
to my husband has a really thick accent. It's adorable.
It's adorable. Okay.
Adorable. Yeah. No, I'm originally from outside Manhattan. So New Jersey, born and raised. Don't have a New Jersey. Yeah, I don't have the Jersey accent either. I lost that. But I used to have a very thick Jersey accent where I went to the mall and got coffee. It was great. I can still do it. And if you put a couple drinks in me, it'll come out. So, yeah, exactly. Boston.
Yeah.
So, right. I lived there until I was 17. And then
in Manhattan?
No, outside of Manhattan in New Jersey. And if anybody,
Jersey. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And if anybody's from New Jersey, they know we talk about it in counties. So I lived in Morris County. And then I packed up my little 91 Geo Prism and I drove myself cross country to California. And I lived in Sonoma County for a while. And I have family out there. So I lived out there. And I lived up in the Santa Rosa area. And if you ever have lived up there or gone up there, there's something we call the Sonoma aroma. So it smells like cows because it's farming country up there. It's also wine country. And I went to college at Sonoma State, which is a really nice, small public school up there. And then I figured out that, I should probably study something when I'm at college.
Yeah.
And so I actually started going to classes and figured out that I needed to pick a major. And while I really enjoyed going to college out there, I decided to transfer to University of Massachusetts at Amherst, which is a much larger school because there was more variety in classes, in choices. And so I drove myself back cross country.
Wow.
And I went to UMass Amherst, sight unseen. I had never visited the campus. I was just like, I miss the New England or the East Coast weather. I miss the Four Seasons. I'm going back. And I got
Wow.
onto campus and I was like, what have I gotten myself into here? Because I went
Yeah.
from a college that was 5,000 people with the graduate program to 35,000 people with the graduate program.
Wow.
And yeah. And so I went to UMass Amherst. I loved it. It was fantastic. I could tell you all kinds of fantastic things about going to school there. And that's how I ended up in Massachusetts. So I haven't left since. I really love it here. And I like New England. It's really nice. You get all the seasons. And it's really a beautiful place to live, I have to say.
Is that seems to be the way we rationalize living in this miserable weather? But we have all
Yeah,
4 seasons.
we do. Well, I
There's
know.
jets that can fly you from Florida to the seasons.
I know. My dad, like the good Jewish man that he is, retired to Florida, and he, keeps wanting the kids to come down there and live down there. And I'm just like, yeah, but the summer is so bad down there. I would be a snowbird.
Water. You dive in and cool off.
I know. There's a pool. You jump into the pool. We have air conditioning. I know.
Right.
I know. I know.
I keep telling my wife I am over the Ohio. We're not far from saying, we're out of here. I'm getting out of this state event very soon. I can't take the winters anymore. I just
I think it's not even the winter I think I struggle with. I think it's more this weather, the like bone cold rain, where it's, that's where I struggle more than like if it's just going to snow, it's pretty. And it's like, you can look outside, you have a cup of hot cocoa and you sit by the fire. That's very pretty here.
Norman Rockwell.
Very. Oh, it's very Norman Rockwell here because we're kind of out in the woods and there's like farms out here and it's beautiful in the winter.
That's
but right
awesome.
Now it's just.
I wanted to go for a run this morning and I look and I'm like, I'm not running in cold rain. No, I'm not walking in it. I'm not doing anything in it.
Exactly. I'm a runner as well. And so I'm very grateful that I went for my 4 miles yesterday, not today. Yeah. I'm very glad I didn't have a run plan today.
Look, Joe says, coming to California, I'll tell Newsom you're on the way. Yeah. Wow. That has turned into a little bit of a Soviet. It's gotten crazy out there. So Joe, a donut run is not a run. So Joe's our show comedian. He's like my Ed McMahon. I just keep him around for that.
That's good. I love it.
So you grew up in, I've only been to Manhattan one time in my entire life. About 3 years ago, I drove over. It's not bad from here. It's about an 8-hour drive. And so I drove over there and I was like, this is incredible. I told the story the other day that I was my wife's traveled all over the world, so she's been in New York many, many, many times for fashion shows and whatnot. Yep. And so I'd never been there. I'd only flown into JFK and LaGuardia for layovers, right? And so I'm driving into Manhattan. I'm on 34th Street. I'm like, oh my God. And I like FaceTime my wife. I'm like, it's Macy's. And they had the Christmas stuff up. It was like late November. And I'm like FaceTiming, showing her and my little girl. And all of a sudden I hear this whistle, really loud whistle. And it's a traffic cop that I'm getting ready to slam into. And yeah, she looked at me like I had a third eye. Anyway, so yeah, that's my only Manhattan story. So it's amazing though. The energy is just I thought it was incredible.
If you've never been there, it's a real experience. I grew up in the 80s, so kids could do anything, right? You can't do any of the things we used to do. But no. I used to get on a bus from the town I grew up in by myself, probably at like 13 years old, and take it by myself into Manhattan and wander around Manhattan. And this is pre-Giuliani cleaning up the city. So it was, gross and dirty and prostitutes and drugs. And I mean, nobody cared because we just lived right there and that's what we did. And so I used to go to the city all the time. So I grew up Manhattan, so easy for me. It's so easy to like navigate. It's a grid. It all makes sense. So it really doesn't faze me. But my husband had never been to Manhattan ever in his whole life. And I remember the first time I took him, he just was walking around like this the whole time.
Right. It's
all time,
unreal.
just staring. And I was like, oh, that's what it's like to be a tourist here. I've never been a tourist in Manhattan. So, I've never been a tourist in San Francisco because I lived out there, and I've never been a tourist in Boston because I live here. And it's, you kind of forget that there's these amazing things because you just see it every day.
The first time, I've never been to San Francisco, but like the first time you go anywhere, I was in San Diego for the first time last year, and I was like, oh my God, no wonder everybody lives out here. It's beautiful. But
it is.
And you like, it's impossible, even if you're like moving there, like it's impossible to, like, the first time you see it is like, wow. Right. My old car didn't have a sunroof, so I'm leaning
your
forward,
head's out the window.
Like, what a nut job.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so you grew up there, you went to school and high school and all that. And there's my buddy Dennis is joining us from China.
Wow.
All the way over in China. Yeah. And it's back to normal there. Did you know that? It's like literally back to normal in China. Like there's no lockdowns, nothing. They're just partying like usual. But anyway, so what was it like? I mean, because you were in Jersey. How far is that from like Manhattan?
I think, if memory serves, I think it was like a 45-minute bus ride. Because again, I took the bus all the time.
Yeah.
So under an hour. Yeah. So maybe as far as I am from Boston now. It's not that far.
So could you see the city from where you were?
Yes. So our town, it was a very small town, and there was a train station that went through the town, and it would go direct into Manhattan. And if you were at a high enough point, you could see Manhattan, you could see the skyline. And it was just very normal to go into the city all the time. My grandparents lived in Brooklyn, and we were there every week. So,
wow. Wow. And you said after high school is when you decided to pack up and move to California?
Yeah, I had, a difficult home life. So I got myself out of there and I went across the country.
By yourself?
Yep. And so I got myself into a better situation, and it was much better for me. So yeah.
So you get out there, you go to college. You said there's 5,000 people on campus. That was it?
It was something like that. It was about 5,000, including graduate students. It's a small public college in California. It's a great school. It's just small. Yeah.
So, talk about some of the challenges you faced, though. I mean, it sounds like growing up may have had some challenges. And then you'd move across the country, which is huge for 18, 19 years old.
I was 17. So my birthday is late. So I was 17 when So, and then it's a whole thing because you have to have your parents sign your paperwork for college. When you, if you go to college and you start before you're 18, you have to have a parent sign your paperwork.
Yeah.
And so that was challenging. And then I feel like at 17, 18, you don't know anything. You think you know everything, but you know nothing. And so, that's challenging. The financial side of it was very challenging. I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but I worked jobs when I was in high school, but you don't have a lot of money saved. And trying to figure out the FAFSA forms and figure out loans when you're 17, 18 years old you don't really understand any of that. And I'm the grandchild of immigrants. And so nobody in my family knew how to do financial aid forms. So
Wow.
nobody knew how to help me figure any of that out. So it's just kind of I feel like I'm a product of like throw it at the wall and see what sticks, which is, that's okay. Like, you kind
Mhm.
of figure it out. And I think a lot of my determination and a lot of my, grit comes from just having to make it work. Nothing was handed to me, nothing was easy. And it was kind of, you really have to struggle. And, I don't think that's great. I don't recommend it, but it definitely gives me a drive to push through things and persevere because, I was determined to get into a better situation and to get an education. And I didn't really know anything about FAFSA forms, and I didn't really know anything about how to deal with a bursar's office or, really choose a college other than, the geography of it. But I just made it work. I literally chose Sonoma State because it was geography, geographically located close to my aunt. And I was like,
Mm.
great, I'll have a support network. I'm going to go there. It seems like it's priced lower than other colleges. I am sure that is not how most people chose colleges, but that's how I chose my college because it, strategically worked for my, needs. You think your hierarchy of needs. I had basic human needs I needed to meet. So
Right.
that's what I needed to do. And then I realized, okay, I've hit a point where I've kind of figured out the FAFSA enough, and I figured out, working the system enough. And let's figure out transferring to a school that has a better program for me so that I can get the most out of this if I'm going to take these loans out.
Yeah.
And I felt like I probably spent about 2 years out there figuring out how to like be an adult, have a checking
Right.
account, pay bills, the soft skills that you don't learn in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so I just figured it out. I don't have a better way of explaining that.
Right.
And I got myself into a different school and I transferred, and there's nothing quite like getting dumped in the middle of 35,000 kids and not knowing anyone, because when you transfer, there's no orientation. They just plunk you in the middle of a school and say, good luck. Here you go.
That was you made that decision though,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
So here you are living in California at a very young age,
Mhm.
on your own, paying
Mhm.
your own bills, all of that,
Mhm.
17, 18 years old, and you decide to move back across the country.
Mhm.
Can you hear
Yep.
me? I think you're
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
okay. And
Sorry, I paused. I was listening.
okay. No. Your internet got a little choppy there, so that's all.
Sorry about
So
that.
you decide to move back across the country after a couple of years in California,
Mhm. Yes.
and by yourself still.
Yes. Mhm.
Wow. And I mean, I can't I have a 14-and-a-half-year-old daughter that she's not far from that age. I can't imagine her going, "Hey dad, I'm moving to California."
Right. Yeah. I
I'd
think
be like, when monkeys fly out your rear end, no way.
I think I just needed, I don't know. I mean, it was a long time ago, but it was,
Yeah,
I needed to get out of the situation I was in.
yeah,
So it was
yeah,
a good, it was a safe way to do that because I had family out there. So
yeah, yeah. So, so you moved to Boston? Is it Boston?
so UMass Amherst is in the western part of the state, so it's out west. So it's
Oh,
Amherst. Yeah.
okay,
Hmm.
okay. And you get a degree?
Yep. I got my bachelor's degree at UMass Amherst.
Okay.
The bachelor major women's studies and a minor in art history. Two departments that everybody always tells you you're never going to be able to get a job from having those
Right.
majors and minors. I almost had a double major in art history and women's studies. I ended up with a major and a minor. I think I was like 1 or 2 classes shy of a
Wow.
double major. And I'm here to tell you, you can turn anything into an actual career because it doesn't matter. They
Yeah.
taught me critical thinking and writing and, how to work for yourself and navigate a system and how
Right.
to create a concrete argument, do research, analytical thought and analysis. And I think that people look at liberal arts majors sometimes as, these soft skills that aren't going to necessarily serve you in a career, which is just not the case. You just have to figure out how it's going to serve you. I've had many interns work for me over the years, and they were maybe marketing majors, and they think that because they're a marketing major, they have to go straight into a marketing career. But if that's not what you want to do, a marketing major is going to serve you in finance, sports management, event planning, whatever you want it to serve you in. You should find something that you enjoy and figure out your transferable skills. And that's what I did. I really enjoyed, the critical thought and analysis and, learning how to defend your point. So.
And I agree with you. You could also take a different route like I did and move out at 17, and because you need to get out of the situation.
Mhm.
And when your high school guidance counselor in 12th grade says, "Hey, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade," and I said, "Well, yeah, that class sucked, and I'm never going to use that in real life. So give me the piece of paper so we can move on from all this." And they refused. And so I said, "Well, then piss off." And I walked out of high school, never went back and never went to college, and made millions of dollars. So like,
I support that. I do.
yeah,
I really do, because it's just, I have to tell you, like, school is really hard for me. It was very, very difficult for me. College was really, really difficult for me. And I
yeah,
really, I would be up late night trying to really figure out how to get myself through college, not only pay for it, but like get
yeah,
a good grade. And I am just not somebody that is built for the way that high school or college is taught. But I knew, I'm so many years in, I decided to stay with it. But I have to say that, like, I really resonate with what you said about high school, because I am convinced that the reason I graduated high school is because the school just couldn't deal with me. And so they kept pushing me forward. Ninth grade doesn't want to deal with her, so we're going to put her in 10th grade. 10th
yeah,
grade, we don't know what to do with her. We're going to put her into junior year.
yeah.
Because I remember I had a teacher, I think it was a history teacher, and he said during like the parent teacher conference, he was like, "She is going to amount to nothing." And
Don't
I
you
just
love
want to
that?
go back. It's really amazing. It's just
Yeah,
really, how is that
awesome.
helpful to anyone?
Right.
So, I just don't learn in that conventional sense.
Well,
So,
and I
but that's
think,
okay.
I can remember there's a lot of teachers that I had that had a God complex. They thought they were all that, and as Dr. Evil would say, all that and a bag of potato chips. And they weren't. And here's Doug Wing. I don't want to like give his financials, but trust me, Doug is
Exactly.
doing better than 99.99% of the world. So, and he was told he was dumb by a teacher, and that. So I think that this is an interesting little topic we could discuss, because I think, you know, I've interviewed interns as well. And my wife is a college graduate. She went to a private college. She's been, global VP of marketing for two
Mhm.
different 500 million plus companies. And she's very, very, she can talk marketing stuff. I'm like, could you please come back down here to my level? And like, she's way over my head with some of it. Right? And help me with my critical thinking, for the love of
Right.
God. And so, I think though that, like, I remember interviewing this kid. He was going into his senior year. He was on the summer break or whatever in between, and he had to have an internship with a marketing company to graduate. Like,
Right.
he had to have it. It was a requirement. And I
Yes.
said, "Cool, man. What are we talking? Like a free internship? What are we?" Oh, no, no, no. It has to be paid. And I go,
Mhm.
"Okay." like minimum wage. Well, no, I was thinking like 20. I said 20,000
Right.
for the summer for me to teach you something. Are you out of
Right.
your freaking mind? He goes, no, not 20,000, $20 an hour. I said, get out of my office now. Get out. He goes, what? And I go, dude, go. Like, I'm not paying 20. There's people that have been here 3 years that don't make $20 an hour. Get out of my office, dude, for real. And he's like, well, I made 16 at the last place, and I don't want to hear anymore. Get out. Like,
right.
And so, like, from my perspective, Julia, and I don't know if you have the same take on this. I'm curious to hear your take, though. But from my perspective, it's like, dude, earn your freaking way in life. Like, do something first before you start asking. And $20 an hour is not big bucks. I realize that, but you're learning. Like, do something first. Do you agree with that?
I think it's hard. Like I think if I had an internship program at a big company, right? So we're a small company, right? And I don't want to sugarcoat it. We're right. So we're under 10 people. So if you're a small company, I think you obviously are running a different set of resources and a different budget than a very large company. My husband works for a very, very, very large company. They pay their interns. I think that's great. We are a very small company. We are very upfront about that. We don't pay our interns. Obviously, there are different laws that regulate all of these things, and you have to work within the law. My feeling is that you have to, if you don't pay, and obviously you're working within the law of that, you have to be incredibly transparent about that you don't pay so that you're setting the expectations correctly and that you're pairing yourself with an intern that is okay with that, because otherwise you have a whole big messy set of expectations and feelings about money. But yes, they're learning, but also I feel like it should be a good exchange of information, right? Like I'm teaching you, but you're also providing value to the company. And when you're providing value to the company, you're learning, right? It should be a cyclical situation. It should be that we are spending time up front with you, teaching you, and then on the back end, you're providing value, and that I'm setting the expectation about how much time it's going to take, how much work you're going to need to put in, and what the expectations of work are, so that everybody has a great experience and that you come out the other side and say, oh my God, this was amazing. It was totally worth the summer or the semester. And that I can have a portfolio of work, or I have a recommendation, et cetera. Actually, I had an intern reach out to me yesterday that worked for me 7 years ago. I've been running internship programs for more than 10 years. And I had an intern reach out to me yesterday out of the clear blue sky, not prompted. She reached out to me and said that the work she did for me 7 years ago and working for me directly completely shaped her career, and that she would not be the person she is today. She wouldn't have the career she has today, and she wouldn't have made the choices she had made in her career if she hadn't worked for me and had the guidance that I had provided. So I think there's just a lot more that we can be providing for internship programs than a salary. We need to be providing value in feedback and in guidance, because these students, whether they're college graduates or, graduate level interns, want to learn, but they need to show up and be ready to work. Yeah. So it really has to be that symbiotic relationship.
Well, and I've always made my own way in life, and no matter what, like nothing's going to stop me. I'm just going to keep plowing forward. And with a business, I had 10 employees, and it's like, I don't understand. I just can't personally relate to, you want to come in, and I had another kid that came in and he was delivering pizzas for a local pizza company, and he saw me on a TV network, and he's like, oh my God, like Grant Cardone. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I want to work for you. I'll do anything. I said, dude, I'm not hiring. He said, I'll work for free. I
Right.
said, well, maybe I am hiring. What can you do? And he's like, I'll clean the bathrooms. Anything I can do to be here and learn from you.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. Now that's refreshing. That was my attitude. That's always been like, give value
Exactly.
first, and then, you know, you know, and again, I think that's a fundamental problem with a lot of businesses as well, is they've forgotten to provide value to their
Agreed.
clients first, and then, and so, anyway, we could go down a dark hole probably with all that, but I just think that it's interesting that, we need to have a shift in this world with some of that. I just truly believe that. So, but anyway, so Julia, you get out of college, you graduate, you've got these incredible degrees and everything going on. What did you do after that? What came next?
So I actually ended up being I needed a job, right? Like
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
22-year-old, I needed a job. So I
Right.
ended up getting a job as a property manager for a low income apartment complex, which is not something that I went to college for, but I had been an RA in college. And so I actually, during the interview process, I remember them saying to me, well, if you can handle, college kids at UMass Amherst, then you can handle this entire apartment complex, which was not that far off, I have to say. Drunken
Wow.
college kids were more difficult. But the real challenge there was, I'm 22 years old and I'm being put into a management position with no management training whatsoever. And I'm managing people that are 50 years old, 60 years old. And so not only does that create a strange power dynamic, the company didn't give me any training as to how to be a leader, how to be a manager. And, there's a certain part of this where there's an intrinsic skill set that some people have of being better at leadership, but
Right.
you also need to learn how to manage people. And at 22 years old, I don't know many 22-year-olds that know how to manage people. And I
Right.
definitely did not. So I think I did the best I could, but it was a great learning experience in terms of learning what not to do and
Yeah.
learning how I could do things better. Some experiences were fantastic and some were really bad. And that's where I realized, like, oh, this is a skill I would like to learn more about. I would like to get better at this. Like, I could genuinely enjoy running large teams of people, being in people management in general, being in leadership long term. I enjoy that. I don't necessarily enjoy running a low income property, but
Right.
I like helping people be the best version of themselves at work.
Right. Right.
So that was definitely my first experience at that. And then from there, I went to law school, which
What?
was terrible, I have to say. Yeah, I went to law school and then I left.
You hated school, but you kept going back.
Yes. So I was determined. I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm like, I want this thing, so I'm going to get this thing, even if I'm bad at this thing. So I
Yeah.
went and I'm really good with logic, right? I'm really
Yeah.
good at things that are black and white, if they make sense. And a lot of the law is very like black and white logic, like a logic
Yeah.
train. So I'm great at that. But then there's parts of the law that are very gray and theoretical, and I am not
Yeah.
good at that. And so I got to law school and I realized that law school has nothing to do with actually being a lawyer, and it only has to do with law school and passing the bar exam. And I am not about that. I'm not spending 3 years and $300,000 of debt to just try to pass an exam, maybe. So I left.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
How long did you go?
I went for a year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah. And
But you
so then
still accumulated debt.
oh, yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yeah. I
Wow.
joke around with my husband that he's going to be paying off my school loans after I'm dead. So, because between college, law school, and then not to, preview things too much, but then I went to graduate school. So yeah, I'm going to have school
Wow.
debt for forever. So,
So you dropped out of and how old were you when you went to law school?
24, something like
Okay.
that. Young.
Yeah. Yeah. So you drop out of law school and then what? What happened next?
Well, I needed a job. And a
There's a
place to
theme
live.
here.
I know. There's this thing where you have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And I also needed a place to live because I
Yeah.
had, I had moved for law school and I had gotten this
Yeah.
apartment and this whole thing. And then now I'm suddenly like, oh, I need a place to live and I need a job. So I ended up, I think I got an administrative assistant job for a couple months and I got another temp job. And, kind of like what you said, it's like you kind of gum and tape things together to pay your bills and you do what you have to do to make it work for a while. And that's okay. There was no like, I'm going to have this big career. It's, I got to pay my bills and that's what I have
Right.
to do. And I did
Right.
that until I literally answered an ad back when there were job ads in the Boston Globe. I answered a job ad in the Boston Globe for
Mhm.
an event manager position at a nonprofit in Boston. And I went through this really lengthy interview process at this big nonprofit. And they ended up hiring me, which I remember being flabbergasted by it because I really did not meet the qualifications they were looking for. I think they were asking for somebody with like 5 to 7 years of event planning experience. And I had like 6 months of event planning experience in college doing, extracurricular events. But it's just an example of you should apply for everything. It doesn't matter if your resume lines up with what they're looking for.
Right.
So I just applied and I made the case that, I had transferable skills and I was the right person for the job, etc. And they really resonated with that. And I interviewed really, really well and they loved it. And so they hired me. I was there for more than 5 years. And I took the department that I was at, which was really having a lot of difficulties. They were in the red. They weren't making any money. The woman who had been in the position previously had actually been fired because
Wow.
she was saying that it was too much work and she wasn't bringing in any money. And she said that it was too big of a job for one person, and she insisted that she needed an assistant. And I came in, and she had had years of experience doing events,
Mm.
and I came in no experience, really very minimal experience doing events. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm talking like college, extracurricular events. I came in and in 5 years, I took it from being in the red to being in the black to being able to fund 2 other departments. And I created an entire marketing plan. I created, package deals to be able to rent additional space. I was funding, like vastly funding the nonprofit. So I really was able to transform an entire department. And in those 5 years, I was like, oh, this is great. I really enjoy taking a problem in a company that is like chaos and making it work. And that's something I really enjoy. And I was also leading teams of people. I was leading large and small projects. I was taking leadership roles in different areas. They were giving me a big breadth and depth of places to take on new and different roles. And it was really fantastic. But then I really just hit a ceiling in the job and they weren't going to let me move up any further, make any more money, or go anywhere else. And I just, I felt very stalled,
Yeah.
excuse me, by that. So it was a great, great position. And it really helped me figure out like, oh, this is what I'm very good at. And this is what I really enjoy. So while I was there, that's when I went to graduate school. I went at night. And actually, I have to say that like getting a business degree, getting a master's in business was one of the best things I've done because not only was it helpful in that I was able to do more experiential learning. So it's small groups. We were
Yeah.
discussing real things. I can't speak for all business degrees, but the program I was in was we would talk about real things that happened at work that day. And then you can
Right.
take what we discussed and go into work the next day and implement it. And that was incredibly helpful,
Yeah.
especially if you're really, dealing with a lot of leadership management things.
Yeah.
That I feel like that degree was one of the most helpful things I've ever done because it was able to take my skills as a project manager, as a people manager, and just catapult them forward and just make me a much better leader, a much better manager. And it was great. So that's where I went from there. And then I got much more into leadership and leading teams of people after that.
I've always been, I can remember many, many, many years ago, looking for a job and filling out applications and creating a resume that had nothing, literally like nothing on it.
Right.
And then, I was like, this is bull crap. I don't like this. Like, you send it in to some anonymous person that will look at it and stamp it one way or the other. And it's like, no, there's got to be a better way. So I just said, if I want a job, I'm gonna find an industry that I can love, and I'm gonna find the leading company or the second or third company in that industry and walk in and say, I want a job here, and I want to be a manager, and I want to, and but that's me. And I'm, most people probably aren't like that, really. Like, I'm just going to go kick in the front door and say, I'm here, let's make it happen, So like, you know what I mean? Like, people aren't like that. But, if you want and it sounds like you're like that. Like, if you want something, although you probably follow the rules a little better than I did, but when you want something, you're like, I'm just gonna go get it.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that. Yes. Yeah. Once I've made up my mind, that's it. My husband says that I'm the most determined person he's ever met. I'll just decide to do something. When I decided to switch from nonprofit marketing to corporate marketing, when I decided to get into executive leadership, when I decided to start long distance running, I had never been athletic in my whole life. All of these kind of large scale decisions, life changing decisions, moving myself cross country. It's just like flipping a switch. I just make the decision. I'm a very fast decision maker. And then that's it. We're going to set the plan in motion. We're going to create the task list. And then that's it. Nothing is deterring me. I can see the obstacles, but I don't see that they're insurmountable. It's just, what else do I need to do to make it happen?
Right.
So, and I hear what you're saying about just like kicking in the door, because if I want to work at a specific company, then I'm just going to go figure out how to work for that company.
Right. Like, if I wanted to work with your company and I know Laura and I know you, and I'd just be like, hey, I'm on my way over to Boston to chat with you. What are we talking about, Ken? I'm buying you lunch, and we're just going to talk about opportunities in the marketplace. I don't know. Like, I think that people need to learn how to become that self-reliant. Even if you're working for a company, you still own your own business because you are the business.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yes. I think it's just, I think you really need to figure out how to advocate for yourself at any stage in your career. Really. Yeah. It's very important. I agree.
It is. I agree. So I cannot believe we've already been on here 43 minutes. That's insane. That's crazy. That seems like we just got started.
I know.
So talk about along the way. I know that you've done a lot of amazing things. Talk about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Vision Advertising. We are a 100% woman-owned, woman-run, full-service marketing agency. Our East Coast office is based outside of Boston in the Metro West area. We have a West Coast office as well in Portland, Oregon. And we are excited to be working with clients for the past 21 years, which is amazing. We work with clients in professional services. We are basically their outsourced marketing department. They hire us when they want a real full marketing experience to come in and help their company do all the marketing needed to bring in more business for them. Usually we're brought in rather than having them hire internally because it's such a cost savings. It's a higher ROI rather than hiring somebody at, say, $50,000 a year, and you're going to have to train them. And then there's the payroll taxes and, the benefits, et cetera. You bring us in and there's no learning curve. We're all experts at what we do. You save money because you don't have to pay the payroll taxes and you don't have to pay the benefits.
Right.
And, we pick things up much faster because we're not 22 years old. Wow. Right.
Wow.
And you get a whole team of
no
people.
offense to 22-year-olds.
No, not at all. It's just, it's a different learning curve. So,
Sure
the people on my team are really fantastic. I don't have marketing generalists. We're all experts at what we do, because you don't want the person that develops your website and codes your website to also be taking photos. Those are very different things, and they're very different parts of your brain. So I have different people on the team that do different things, and they're really amazing. So that's my professional role. I've been with the company for 4 years. It's a fantastic company, and we're really proud to work with an amazing swath of different clients. And, with the pandemic and with everything that the country is going through, we've been creating really amazing free resources for small businesses, including this new product called Vision University, which I know, Ken, you were a part of our success series, which is fantastic. It's a free series of videos for small business owners to be able to have access to some resources and be able to hear from experts in the field and hear amazing interviews. So that is all available. And then we have some very low price point marketing resources as well, because we really want to lower the boundary and create a easier entry point for small businesses. Yep, Jill, it's Vision University.
That's my wife. That's my wife there.
Oh,
and Charles says, what type of marketing budget should a company have to employ your company?
That is a great question. And I am going to answer with the answer that nobody wants to hear. It depends. It depends on.
I've done website development for 26 years. And I love it when people are like, how much is a website?
Right. Exactly. And I'm just like, it depends on your budget. It depends on your goals. It depends on your resources. It depends on what you want to accomplish and who you're trying to reach. Right. So that we are not cookie cutter. We are not plug and play whatsoever. Every client we work with has a specialized, personalized marketing plan based on their needs, their budget, and their goals. There is no one answer to what works. We create it personalized and specialized for every client. So I think that's a fantastic question. It's just there's no one answer, because one company is going to want to spend $100,000 because that's going to meet their needs and their budget and their goals. Whereas another company is going to spend $25,000 annually with us, and that's going to meet their needs and their budget and their goals. And so we really do sit down with each company. Well, it used to be in person, but now it's video chat, and that's totally fine. And we really create those custom plans for you because it needs to be what works for you.
Well, so let's talk about, because I happen to have some insider information. Let's talk about some of the biggest challenges you've faced personally in your career and life.
Let's do it.
We only have 10 more minutes or so. So let's talk about some of the challenges you've faced. I mean, this show is called Breakthrough Walls, and so far you've made it all sound really easy and simple.
Well, I would say that the biggest challenge these days, so I actually have cancer. So I, at the beginning of the COVID crisis, went through a very long process of not only trying to secure the financial future of Vision Advertising, applying for the PPP, transitioning the company from an office to work from home, to making sure that my staff is had what they needed, helping my clients, et cetera, and probably working more hours than I've ever worked in my entire professional career. I was also going through a very difficult process of personally trying to get the testing done in order to be diagnosed with thyroid cancer. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts was basically shut down completely because we were such a hot spot. And so I was really stuck between a rock and a hard place where I had gotten some testing done, but not all of the testing done. So it was not conclusive. I had a ultrasound, but I hadn't had the biopsy done. So I spent about 4 weeks at the beginning of the COVID crisis, kind of running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to figure out how to get a biopsy done so that I could figure out if I had cancer or if I just had a benign mass in my throat. And at the same time running the company. And
Gee.
so I spent many, many hours on the phone. I have a cousin in Colorado who's an oncologist, and he really was a lifesaver. And he spent so much time with me explaining how hospitals work, how to transfer my records, how to find a new doctor, move from a hospital system that was really being hit very hard by the COVID crisis to a different hospital system, et cetera, kind of the, bureaucracy of all of that. And as somebody that's very type A and very logic based, it's very helpful for me to understand all of those things. And I was able to kind of switch everything over to a different hospital system, started working with an endocrinologist because it's a thyroid problem. And I had a telehealth appointment. She looked at all of my tests, and so did my cousin. And they said I had a 98% chance that it was benign and it was just an annoying mass. They sent me for a biopsy and it came back as cancer. But because the entire state was shut down, they couldn't even do the surgery. And the way that thyroid cancer works, the way the protocol is you start with surgery and you do further treatment from there. So I couldn't go for radiation or anything until they did the surgery. So then I'm, running around, living my life, knowing I have cancer and can't get treatment. And I can't go anywhere because I'm such high risk. So I have asthma and an autoimmune disorder and cancer in the middle of a global pandemic. Right.
Wow.
And so then it's, do I get on a plane and risk getting on a plane to travel to a different state to get the surgery? It was a very, very stressful time. It ended up that Massachusetts opened up for surgeries, and I was the first surgery the first day at Massachusetts General Hospital. So I took a 3-month medical leave from the company, and I had surgery. I had my entire thyroid removed. I had a 3-centimeter mass on the left side of my thyroid, and it had spread to the right side of my thyroid. And then when I had surgery, they found that it actually had spread further. It spread to my lymph nodes. So I actually still have cancer. So the pathology came back and showed that it was a more aggressive form than they originally anticipated. So I had radiation, which is awful. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. Radiation is terrible. And so I went through radiation in July, and I'm still recovering from that. And then I go for some new scans. So then I went for new scans, and they found a new mass in my throat. And, but they could tell that I got hit by the radiation. So now it's just a wait and see to see if it shrinks or if it grows. And then we make treatment decisions from there. So I'm going to go for new scans in a few weeks. And then we'll know, do I have surgery again? Do we wait and see some more? What do we do? Yeah. So it's definitely a case of, some added stress. And then your body feels wrong. My body feels different. It feels wrong. I mean, I'm a very athletic person. I'm a very active person, excuse me. And to, have the additional stress of this illness and this disease and the treatment on my body during obviously a very stressful time, for the company and for the country. It's like a layer cake of stress. It's like
Yeah.
COVID,
Wow.
pandemic, economy, the election,
Yeah.
cancer, radiation, just like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's been this year. I also broke my elbow this year, just to add a little bit of insult to injury. I was out for a training
Awesome.
run. I know. I was out for a training run and I broke my elbow. It's been a year. I'm having a year. So
Wow.
yeah. But
2020.
I know. But I
It'll
really,
be, hey, it'll be nice when 2020 is in hindsight.
in all
Like,
seriousness. I mean, but the big thing that I always tell people is that, you got to have some perspective about things. It's really, cancer's horrible. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's really, really awful, but I'm trying to take it one day at a time. I've gotten back to long distance running. I'm very slow. I'm probably 2 minutes per mile slower than I was. And to answer Ernest's question, the de-stress is really definitely running, and I'm back to working out. Actually marathon training. My marathon was canceled. I was going to do the California International Marathon and go see some family, but obviously everything is canceled this year, which is totally fine. But I've decided I'm just going to run it on my own. I'm just going to run it on the Boston Marathon course by myself in the New England winter. And that's fine.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I love your determination. I told you before we got started that my wife's brother, my brother-in-law, has he's had it started at 6. He had leukemia, and she was his donor and did a full bone marrow transplant, and he's now 47. I want to say 47. She'll know. She'll drop his age in, but and he's been through all of that for
Yep.
many times throughout life, and the dude has the most positive outlook on life. It's like once you've been through all of that, there's everything else is a walk in the park, so
yeah, it
yeah,
really gives you a new perspective.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really, I try to, I used to plan really long term. Now I plan short term, but that's because I'm just trying to take it one challenge at a time. It's like breakfast is challenging enough these days. So I'm not trying to really plan past that. But it also makes the victories way sweeter. I used to take so many things for granted, and I just don't take any of it for granted anymore. I just, the fact I ran 4 miles yesterday, it's like, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened. Like, you have to appreciate all of it. So
that is amazing. My wife said cancer does not define you. That's right.
Right. Exactly. It's just a part of you.
Have you looked at any of the because my wife is I was introduced to the Dr. Axe keto diet, and have you looked at any of that stuff?
I haven't looked at that. So I actually have celiac, so I can't do a lot of these different diets.
Well, this is I trust me, I'm very aware of celiac. I've got my own issues, but I think that a friend of mine who went through cancer called me, and he's a cop, and he's always been a little bit on the hefty side, a shorter guy, but he was always hefty. And he calls me, he goes, dude, you got to get this book. And anyway, I got, it's like this guy, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of stories of people moving over to the keto diet, keto plan, whatever it's called. And it's cured them of cancer, like cured, gone. So I don't know. My wife knows a lot more about it, because I get so many books. I get books literally every day from people that want to be on the show. My wife's like, you get a package every single day. And I'm like, are you jealous? Like, what?
Right.
Right. But So I haven't read the book, but she's studied the heck out of this. So it looks like there's some really cool stuff. But Julia, you are amazing. I love your energy. Laura said I was going to love you, and I do. I love your energy. You're amazing. And one thing I always ask everybody on the show is, what do you think, in your opinion? And fear is one of the top answers to this question, by the way. What do you think holds people back in life from experiencing real success and happiness and joy and freedom and all of that? What do you think holds people back?
I think that's a great question. I think it's probably a lot of things. I think you're asking a couple different things. Success is not necessarily the same as happiness. So I would say that, it depends on how you define success, but sometimes it has to do with access to things. I know that I'm very privileged to have an incredibly supportive partner. I was able to access education. I was able to get myself into really good situations. I had access to, a great workforce, et cetera. And so some of it's access, some of it's luck. I think also it's some sheer determination. Sometimes fear, I think, holds people back. I also think sometimes it depends on your personality type. I spend a lot of time talking about personality types with the people that work for me. Some people are built to be people pleasers, and that's okay. That's a valid personality type. That's not who I am. That doesn't make me bad. That doesn't make me good. That's just not who I am as a person. But I think that people who are people pleasers sometimes struggle with figuring out what they want versus what other people want. And that can be very difficult in terms of finding your own success and your own happiness. And I counsel a lot of people who have worked for me, usually women, who struggle with that. So that could be a factor. I think fear maybe, but I think fear is too simple of an answer, because usually fear is something that's hiding something else.
Yeah.
I think it could be, an adversity to risk. A lot of people are risk adverse, and that's also valid. I think a lot of people have a lot of worry, which I think is different than fear. So, and I also think maybe it's fear of the unknown, which I think is more specific.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love that answer. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Julia Becker Collins, outside of Boston. You're awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And my wife says I'm a researcher, so I study a lot. She does. There's some intriguing information about nutrition, mindset, and healing. There's all kinds of it out there. She's right. Do what resonates with you. I thank you. You're in my prayers. You're in all of our prayers, and we're going to send you lots of healing energy. You're going to come out of this just fine. I know it. I see it. I feel it. I want you to claim it. So, Julia, thank you so much for being on today and sharing your story and your transparency.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And we will see you guys all tomorrow. And thank you to anyone who shared this out and has watched this. And make sure you go follow Julia. Where's the best place to follow you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Julia Rifka, Julia, R as in Rachel, IV as in Victor, KA. You can find Vision Advertising on Instagram. We're at Vision Advertising Rocks, because we do. You can also find Vision Advertising at vision-advertising.com. And we're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Awesome. Everybody go follow Julia right now, and we will see you later. Thanks so much, Julia.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Hang with me.